Welcome to Infinite Storyverse, where the quietest moments often echo the loudest, and stories peel back the layers of what it means to be human. In today's video, we step into the grayest corners of the heart, where love, loyalty, confusion, and desire tangle in a story that dares to ask, what happens when the lines we vowed never to cross begin to blur in the silence? This is not a tale of scandal. This is a tale of vulnerability, of being caught off guard by feelings too complex for words, and a night that changed everything. There are moments in life you never see coming. They creep in quietly, like fog over a still lake. Soft. Unassuming. But then they hit you. Like a wave crashing when you least expect it. I didn't think this could happen to me. Not with him. Not with my own stepson. But there I was. Standing on a cliff I didn't know existed. Looking down into a truth I could barely face. A truth I didn't ask for. A truth I couldn't ignore. My name is Sarah. I'm a mother. A wife. A woman who's seen the soft unraveling of life in its quietest and loudest forms. I've known joy, grief, betrayal, renewal. I thought I had lived through the hardest things love could throw at me. But nothing prepared me for Henry. Henry, my stepson. When I married his father, I expected the awkwardness. I braced myself for the distance, the tentative smiles, the slow weaving of two families into one. What I didn't expect was Henry. Or the way he'd grow. Change. Or the way he would one day look at me like I wasn't just a part of the family. Like I was something else entirely. He was always a good kid. Quiet. Kind. With a gentleness that caught me off guard sometimes. He was respectful, even warm, but always careful. Thoughtful. And then, he wasn't a kid anymore. He started to change in subtle ways. He spoke less but looked more. His eyes held something I couldn't quite read at first. It wasn't blatant. It wasn't inappropriate. But it lingered. A kind of quiet intensity. At first, I brushed it off. He was growing up. Young men look at women differently. It was probably nothing. Just me overthinking. Right? But deep down, I knew. It wasn't nothing. It was building. Slowly. In the silences. In the looks that held too long. In the way the air shifted when it was just the two of us in the same room. Then came the night that changed everything. His father was away for the weekend. Just Henry and me in the house. It was a quiet Saturday evening. I was curled up on the couch with a book. He was flipping through the channels absent-mindedly, barely watching. The kind of night that feels uneventful. But then, he put down the remote. I felt it before I saw it. The room shifted. My heart picked up before I even looked at him. Mom, he said. It wasn't the word that made me freeze. It was how he said it. Not casually. Not dismissively. Not the way you say it when you're asking where the cereal is. There was weight in it. Emotion. Something unspoken wrapped around the syllables. I looked up. Met his eyes. And I knew. I knew what was about to happen. I just didn't want to hear it. I've been thinking about us, he said. His voice low, hesitant. I wanted to stop time. Pause it. Undo it. But I couldn't. I asked, what do you mean? But I already knew. I'd felt it too. I hated that I had. But I had. Henry looked down, rubbed the back of his neck like he couldn't find the right words. Then he said something I will never forget. I know this sounds crazy. But I feel like there's something between us. I can't ignore it anymore. I don't know how to explain it. But when I'm with you, it's different. It's like, I don't know. Real. Silence fell over us like a curtain. I couldn't breathe. I was frozen. Not with fear, but with heartbreak, confusion, and a longing I didn't want to admit. Because he was right. I had felt it too. Months. Maybe longer. I had ignored it. Stuffed it down. Told myself it was loneliness. Imagination. A middle-aged woman projecting feelings into empty spaces. But it wasn't just me. He felt it too. "Henry," I whispered. My voice cracked. "This isn't right. You're my stepson. I raised you. I can't." "I know what it means," he interrupted. His voice wasn't angry. It was desperate. Honest. Bare. "But I can't stop it. And I don't think you can either. I'm not asking you to do anything. I just needed to know. Do you feel it too?" I couldn't answer. Because the answer would destroy us. The truth would burn everything down. Yes. I felt it. Yes. I wondered. Yes. I was afraid. But I couldn't say it. I couldn't let him hear that from me. Not aloud. Not ever. "This is dangerous," I finally whispered. "This could ruin everything." He nodded. But the hurt was all over his face. He looked away. And I wished he hadn't. Because when he looked at me, I saw something I couldn't unsee. Love. Not the kind that comes from years of familial bonds. But the kind that surprises you. The kind that doesn't ask permission. That night, nothing happened. Not really. No lines were crossed. But in truth, everything changed. The next morning, I made pancakes. We spoke about nothing. Weather. Music. The mundane. But under the surface, there was fire. It's been weeks. Life went back to normal. On the outside. But there is a tension now. An awareness. In the way we pass each other in the hallway. In the silences that used to be easy. In the way my heart still stumbles when he walks into the room. I try to bury it. I do. But every time I look at him, I remember that night. I remember the honesty in his voice. The ache in his eyes. The storm in mine. Some lines, once seen, can never be unseen. Some desires, even when unspoken, leave echoes that don't fade. I am not proud. I am not ashamed either. I am human. And this is the story of the moment that made me see how delicate love and boundaries really are. There is a shadow between us now. Not darkness. Not evil. Just something that lingers. Something that breathes in the spaces where we used to feel safe. And sometimes, late at night, I still wonder. What if I had said yes? Part 2, a letter he wrote but never sent. It was 2 weeks later. A warm Sunday morning. The kind where everything feels deceptively calm. I was tidying the upstairs hallway when I saw it, a folded sheet of paper, slipped half-heartedly beneath my bedroom door. My name was written on the front in Henry's unmistakable handwriting. Sarah. Not Mom. Just Sarah. I stared at it for a long time, heart pounding, pulse humming against my skin. I didn't touch it at first. I was afraid of what might be inside. Afraid of the honesty it might carry. But even more afraid of the honesty it might awaken in me. Eventually, I picked it up. Sat on the edge of my bed. And read. The letter. I don't know how to say this to you out loud, so I guess this is the only way I can get it all out without stumbling or regretting it halfway through. That night, when we talked, I know I crossed a line. Maybe just in saying it. Maybe in how I looked at you. Maybe in how long I waited to say anything at all. But I don't regret being honest. What I do regret is that I made it harder for you. I saw your face. I saw how torn you were. And that has haunted me more than anything else. You raised me in ways I don't think I appreciated until I got older. You were always there. Always steady. Even when my dad wasn't. Even when life was messy. Even when I didn't know how to express it, I always felt safe around you. But something changed. Not because you changed, but because I started seeing you. Not as a stepmother. Not as someone I was supposed to be guarded around. But as a woman. A human being with dreams, fears, regrets, and this quiet, beautiful strength that I couldn't ignore. It started with admiration. Then it became something I couldn't name. And then, without even realizing it, I was holding my breath every time you walked into the room. I'm not writing this to confuse you more. Or to ask for something. I'm writing this because I need you to know that what I felt, what I still feel, wasn't a fantasy. It wasn't some wild impulse. It was real. And maybe the most painful part of all of this is knowing that the right thing to do is nothing. I won't bring it up again. I promise. But if you ever wonder whether you imagined what happened between us that night, you didn't. And if you ever find yourself feeling alone, just know that somewhere, someone once looked at you and saw the entire universe in your silence. With everything I can't say aloud. Henry. When I finished reading, I sat still for what felt like hours. The words swirled around me, delicate as smoke. There was no anger in them. No expectation. Just a truth he had buried in ink, and left quietly for me to find. I folded the letter slowly, carefully, like it might dissolve if I moved too fast. And then I hid it. Not to forget it. But to protect it. To protect him. To protect myself. There are some emotions too sacred to share, even with the person who caused them. There are some moments in life that don't need resolution. Only reverence. Sometimes the most powerful form of love is the one that stays unspoken. Part 3, when his father finally noticed. It had been nearly a month since that quiet, shattering night, the night Henry confessed what he could barely say aloud. Since then, life had resumed its usual rhythm. Outwardly, at least. But beneath the surface, nothing was the same. I wore a smile like armor. Cooked meals. Folded laundry. Made polite conversation. But inside, something trembled. Something fragile and electric. Henry had kept his word. He never brought it up again. He never made another move. But his presence lingered. Not just in the room, but in my mind, in my breath, in my every careful step. And then, one evening, his father noticed. We were sitting around the dinner table. It was a typical Thursday night. Roasted chicken, green beans, soft jazz playing low in the background. Henry was quiet, but that wasn't unusual. He had always been reserved in front of his father. But there was something different in the air. A silence with weight. James, my husband, looked up from his plate and asked, "Everything okay, kiddo? You've been a bit off lately." Henry gave a small shrug. Just a lot on my mind. Finals, mostly. But James didn't buy it. I saw the flicker in his eyes. That subtle narrowing of his gaze. He looked from Henry to me, and I felt my stomach tighten. Later that night, while we were getting ready for bed, he asked me. "Has Henry said anything to you lately? About school? Or anything else?" I hesitated. Too long. "No," I said quickly. Too quickly. James studied me. I turned away. "You sure?" "Positive," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "He's just stressed." But something in James shifted that night. I felt it. A tension in the way he watched Henry. A new kind of awareness in how he spoke to him. The next few days, James became quieter. More observant. Like he was watching a play unfold, unsure of the script, but convinced something was off. One afternoon, I came home early from the store. As I walked through the front door, I heard their voices in the living room. Low. Heated. Is there something going on with you and Sarah? James asked. My breath caught in my throat. Henry's voice came, steady but guarded. What? No. Why would you ask that? You look at her differently. Silence. Then Henry said, softly, maybe you just never noticed before. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. James didn't shout. He didn't accuse. But he didn't speak for a long time. She's my wife, he finally said. You get that, right? I do, Henry replied. More silence. And then James asked the question I had feared for weeks. Did something happen? And Henry, bless him, said the only thing he could say. No. Not really. I stepped back quietly, my hands trembling. That conversation changed everything. James didn't confront me. Not directly. But the way he looked at me afterward had changed. There was distance now. A suspicion he couldn't name but couldn't ignore. Henry avoided being alone with me after that. He kept himself busy. He stayed in his room more. He was trying to undo the ripple that had already become a wave. And I was unraveling silently. Caught between two truths. I loved my husband. And I was afraid of my stepson. Not because he threatened me. But because he had seen me. Really seen me. In ways even James never had. There is a cost to being truly seen. And now, James had started to see it too.